Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the Quarter 2 tier list for 2024. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Do you like it or not? Or do you agree or disagree? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, and a affiliate link Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, I'm once again back with my quarterly tier list based on the latest balanced data slate, along with the newly released kill teams from Kill Team Nightmare. But as always, I'll have an article version of this down in the episode description below. And effectively for the tiers, remember S tier is basically a kill team that has the fewest bad matchups and then is more likely to win an event. A tier kill teams can win an event, but they're more likely to go 3 wins and 1 loss in a 4-round tournament. They just have more bad matchups than the A tier than the S tiers. Then B tiers are likely to go 3-1 or 2-2 in a 4-round tournament. They just have more bad matchups than the A and S tier. Then the C tier kill teams are middle of the road, more on average to go 2 wins, 2 losses. They have equally good and equally bad matchups. Then D tier kill teams are kill teams that are likely to go 1 win and 3 losses because they have a lot of bad matchups or are very old. And then E tier is just like worst in the game, more likely to go 0 wins and 4 losses. But remember, the tier list is subjective. It's going to be different if you are like a faction veteran or very experienced in the game, because this is more of a generalized thing to help people plan their matchups, what to take in tournaments and what they're going to have to prepare for, because you're very likely to see the S and A tiers but not really going to likely see the D tiers. But you still need to keep in mind of everything, and it's just a tool to help you guide. It's not set in stone and it's for fun. But let's get on with it. So in the E tier, pretty static, we have Compendium Necrons, Tau, and Kroot. Obviously, you just play Higher Attack Circle instead, Pathfinders, and you get a slight upgrade when you play Farstalker Kinband. Then in D tier, we have Craftworld Aldari. We also have Drukhari. Okay. Orcs, you know, if you can run 19 Grots. Then you've got Compendium's Genestealer Cult, Grey Knight, Sisters of Battle, Chaos Space Marines, Scouts, all of Space Marines. And then I've also put Death Watch as well, just because the 11 wounds doesn't quite much anymore. Then we get to C tier. So in C tier, we have Chaos Demons. They're probably one of the best Compendium teams. Still, like 12 demons is hard to shift. Then we've got Tyranids, you know, High Fleet. They're still really good, either as 10 Genestealers or mixing with Genestealers Warriors and, you know, normal Tyranids. Then we've got Imperial Guard, also one of the best Compendium factions. Talons of the Emperor, they have still been consistently placing high, just a very good kill team overall still. And then we've got Death Guard, still also one of the best just because of how their durability can spike, right? They suffer on maps where objectives are far away, but otherwise they're actually pretty solid as a Compendium team. Then we have Void Dancer Troop, who have dropped quite considerably down from A tier to C tier. They do not like losing fly. I mean, they probably just need Domino Field back to 1 CP, and then you can tweak from there. They do deserve something back from the chain to the jump. Probably a free traverse. Free traverse and 1 CP Domino Field is enough. But at the moment, they're C tier. Intercession are C tier. They're just kind of hovering there. You know, they're not doing too well, but still okay. Farstalker Kinband, arguably probably the worst bespoke team in the game, just because of, well, they can score, but they don't stick around and they can't kill. So it's not great. Then we've got Exaction Squad. They keep going up and down. While they're great into the melee teams, they're not a huge counter to the melee teams as we originally thought. And they have actually struggled a lot into the meta. And even from March stats, they've done actually quite incredibly badly. Then Strikeforce Justian, technically the worst performing bespoke team. But I know some people rate them higher than Intercession Squad, but I think they're still the same. They just have different bad matchups and good matchups. And then we've got, unfortunately, Scout Squad. They've dropped down from B tier. They just aren't doing well at the moment. They did better in March overall with the stats, but they're still struggling with the current meta. Definitely needed some changes there to perform better. And then we've got Blades of Cain. They are slowly doing worse and worse each month. I actually think they're quite bad, because they are 8 fragile operatives, and once you know their tricks, they're quite easy to beat. But they still are finding some success, but overall I rate them at C tier. And then once again, the tiers aren't ordered in terms of like which is strongest to weakest. It's just basically when they were released, order of release. Then for B tier, we have Veteran Guardsmen down from A tier. They're still really solid. The nerfs hurt them more competitively at the upper echelons, but they're still a very solid kill team. And if you weren't aware of their tricks, they kind of remain unchanged. So they're just a nice solid kill team. Corsairs still remain really good. They actually have some better matchups now, but I think they're still B overall just because they're 9 operatives. Then we have Blooded for B, for Balanced, for B tier. We've got Blooded. They actually did really well this month, especially in GT Long, where they were actually one of the overperforming kill teams in the format of 5 or more rounds with 30 more player tournaments. Then we got Phobos. They were the best elite team, but they're still quite good in B tier. Then we've got Legionary, who I think are definitely in B tier now, just because of how the Legionary the Commando matchup has changed. They're just slightly better, so I think it edges it enough. Then we've got Breachers in B tier. They've actually not been doing well in the last 3 months, but I think it's more of what's above them that's the problem. They're still a very solid kill team. Kazakin in B tier, they kind of gatekeep effectively all elite teams, but they haven't been doing well overall, so just B tier. You could argue C tier, but I think they're still B tier. Hand of the Archon in B tier as well. They're just kind of solidifying there at the moment. Then we've got Hearthkin. I would still put in B tier. They potentially could be in A, but for now I'd still say they're B tier. And then we've got Chaos Cult, definitely in B tier now. Like, you could argue probably A tier if you played them hard enough, but I think B tier is a healthy spot for them and a good spot for them. And then in the A tier, we have Hunterclade. Orderly, one of the best balanced kill teams. I think I've put them in A tier for like months now, like consecutive tier lists. They are very good, but suffer from being very honest, where they're quite easy to play around and don't have as many tricks as other kill teams do. They're just very solid, and they can counter lots of the top tier stuff, but they haven't found much success, and they've actually done badly in terms of win rate, but it's just a mystifying thing. I think they're just too honest, which is fine. It's good being honest. It's just they don't have any sneaky tricks, and they don't have ways to punish sneaky tricks, but they're just good overall. Then we have Warp Coven, who I've put in the A tier, just because I know people were saying rubrics were the best way to... The new and improved rubrics are great, but I still personally feel Zangors are better because of that 9 wounds. It changes so much with that 9 wound breakpoint that I think people underestimate it. And from the Warp Coven players I've been talking to and seeing, the ones that are going Zangor heavy are still doing much better than those that are still relying on rubrics. Obviously, you're going usually 3 sorcerers and then either the heavy gun or icon and then 4 Zangors. But those changes are enough to, I think, just put them in the A tier. I was umming and ahhing between B tier and A tier, but I think they're A tier for now. They're just really solid, but I don't think they're the best kill team in the game. Then we've got Novitiates. They're really solid as well. They're kind of like a dark horse where they don't like certain kill teams in the S tier, but they're still really good, and people kind of always underestimate them until they win an event or like top an event and beat a lot of players because they're just really solid. Then we've got Wormblade. Wormblade are definitely A tier. They are borderline S tier. Like, they just have so many tricks. They are edging to slightly overperform and more each month. They're just a very good kill team. They're really accurate with all their rerolls. They have more tricks and mobility. So their weakest is still Into the Dark, but it's not by much. They just really hope to play on Open and Beta Decima, but they're just a great kill team overall. Then we have Elucidian Starstriders. I still think they're in a really good spot, especially mainly while elites are in a really bad spot, because the main bad matchup for Starstriders are elites and large hordes, but Veteran Guardsmen got nerfed and elites still aren't in a great spot. And Elucidian Starstriders, while difficult to play, have a lot of tools to punish most of the meta, and I think they're generally in a really good spot. Their main weakness now is heavy melee teams, which is unfortunate, but they counter enough. But if the melee teams got nerfed more, as the ones you'll see above, then I'd put them in S tier, but for now I think they're in solid A. And the same applies kind of to Galapox Infected. I think they're just in a really balanced spot. They're finally in a spot where they're just good, and they still require skill to play, because it's basically how much work can your Hulks do, because your Hulks kind of carry, but you need to keep all your little stuff alive. So they're very skill-based, but they're still 14 operatives. There are a lot of bodies to deal with, but they're very good, especially into like a lot of the popular teams in the meta. Just difficult to play and kind of hate Beta Decima, but that's the same for a lot of kill teams. And then we also have Inquisition, Inquisitorial Agent. They are definitely A tier. They kind of, you could argue, if you're playing Vet Guard, maybe now is definitely the time to switch to Inquisitorial Agent. They have a lot of tricks. They have 12 activations. They only have 12 operatives, but they have a lot of tricks and adaptability. They are still in a good spot. They still have some weaknesses, as you'll see going forwards, but they're actually still really good, and they have a lot of plays to counter stuff, you know, with their tactical ploy ability to stop a ploy once per turning point. So, well, once per game. So still a very good kill team. Then from the Nightmare kill teams, we have the Nemesis Claw, who are the best elite team in the game. They are very, very good. They, even though they're mainly like a close combat kill team, they are surprisingly efficient, and they spike more the more prescience tokens you roll. So let's say you go into turning point 2 with 6, but you've spent 1 on turning point 1 for +1 CP. Then you do it again, turning point 2, so you got +1 CP, and then you have either 4 delays, but you can also use them not just to delay activations, but also to make your leader have just a scratch. So your leader can double fight, and effectively, if he's killing stuff in 2 hits, he's effectively tanking 2 hits worth of damage. So he's just, well, you can only want per fight action, but it's still really good. And they're such a flexible kill team with so many tricks. They're generally quite safe turning point 1, and unless they're facing into teams which unfortunately have a lot of ways to negate obscuring, which a lot of the shooting teams do now. But they're still very solid, and effectively, even though their faction tac ops aren't great, because they have such a wide selection of tac ops, they are very good. If you are an elite player, going like you miss your elite oomph, I would definitely recommend playing Nemesis Claw. The only thing you have to adapt around is not having much ranged firepower, but the kill team makes up for it with board control, mortal wounds damage, and just really great melee output. Such a great kill team. Then we have Mandrakes. So Mandrakes I put in A tier. They are technically S tier if you play on Into the Dark. Into the Dark, definite S tier. But for now I'm saying A tier because I think that's the safest route. They still have incredible mobility, melee tools, tac ops, operatives, interruption tricks, shooting, like everything. Everything about them is amazing, but I think it's better to play it safe and just put them into A tier because there are still S tier kill teams they struggle with, like notably Felgor Ravagers. I don't think this kill team can beat Felgor Ravagers, but they are very good at into other melee teams. Well, not even other kill teams. Melee teams are oddly their weakness, especially if they outnumber them or require more ways to kill. But this kill team is amazing. Like the shooting does so much damage into 2 APL models. Because anything with a 4-up save or better with 2 APL effectively shifts down to a 5-up save. Like your Fire Blast operative generally kills everything it shoots at because it's incredibly likely to get 5 hits while in shadow with lethal 5-up, and it just burns stuff away. Just a crazy, crazy kill team. Like, it's almost S tier. I would put it like A plus, you know, in between A and S tier. Like, definitely if you're playing Into the Dark, they're just like, it's just crazy. Like the teleportation, like they have so many tricks. But I think they still have quite a few bad matchups compared to the best teams in the game. So definitely A tier for now. And now we come to the S tier. So S tier, we still have Commandos. And I know, you go like, John, why are Commandos still in S tier? So yes, just a scratch doesn't work against crits. And there are more kill teams that have ways to, ensure crits to an extent. But a lot of kill teams still can't. So it just means skew matchups are a little bit worse. There's still 11 activations. While the chopper nerf is frustrating, good commando players are adapting by dropping the breacher boy and taking another boy, and then taking one sledgehammer, and then adjusting their equipment as per their opponent. They're still a very incredibly good shooting kill team. Their melee was just an added bonus, right? There's still 10 wounds, 11 activations. They play Seek and Destroy and Infiltration really well. Just a great kill team where even though they got nerfed, none of their main mechanics got nerfed. So they're still amazing, right? You just put the dynamite on the knob, you can move up and threaten, and especially into kill teams that don't have reliable ways to ensure crits, your commandos are just as durable. and still playing the same. You just have to watch out for teams that ensure crits more. So Oddly Handed the Archon is technically a worse matchup, but you have the bodies and wounds to kind of fight through that anyway. It's weird, right? And I still think they'll probably get less popular and their win rate will drop, but you'll see like good players pilot them really well and still win events or top events. And I think that's the way Commandos will stay until they either go down to 10 activations or something else changes with the kill team. Then in S tier, we have Pathfinders because they are a growing problem. Month on month, their win rate is getting better. They're winning more events. And especially with the worrying kind of push of Beta Decima, where even in the latest balanced Dataslate, Games Workshop wants us to play balanced Beta Decima more, even though it's not really in a balanced state. Pathfinders, because of the current wording of Beta Decima, visibility is only blocked when you're checking for line of sight because of how they worded it. So the issue is it doesn't actually stop Pathfinders from marker lighting people up. And even if it did, Pathfinders would just move up onto the gantries and marker light you going behind light cover if you're not using my heavy scatter pack. So the entire problem you have with this kill team, month on month, they're getting better and better in terms of performance, win rate, and tournament wins. And especially if Beta Decima goes up, this kill team is the best kill team on Beta Decima. They're still doing really well on Open. Into the Dark, they're okay now. The main issue is, like, obviously the recon drone should be 2 operatives, or like if they want to make the recon drone still 1 operative swap, I would say you can't take any other drones, or it counts as 2 drone selections, something like that. So you'd have to take another operative, you know, drop another operative to get a different drone to kind of like spice things up. And even rework marker lights to say if someone uses the marker light bonuses, they're all gone. So if like someone uses so you've lighted someone up with 3 marker lights, someone shoots, if they use those marker lights, they're gone. Something like that to tone this kill team down, because the problem with the way Games Workshop is currently trying to balance the game, from what they've said in the latest balanced Dataslate video, they're trying to use terrain to balance the game instead of just, I mean, it's part of the factor, right? And I don't think that's the right way to do it. And if they keep going that route, Pathfinders will be the best kill team in the game. And they are very tempting to play. They are quite oppressive, right? When I played them again recently back in London, I was like, oh, I haven't played them in 18 months. And it was just crazy. I remember my friends going like, you played that really well, John, but it reignited my hate for Pathfinders because you just marker light me and then shot me off. And I was like, yeah, that's how this kill team plays. So they are definitely S tier. They are very hard to play, right? They're not easy. I don't think any of the killed teams in the S tier, apart from Felgor, are easy to play. But when you are a competitive player playing them at a good level, they are incredibly oppressive, especially on more open maps as people are trying to move to way more open maps to try and balance out melee teams, which is something I also warned about when talking about melee teams in my melee team video. But then we have Hierotech Circle. Hierotech Circle are S tier if you're running the Chronomancer. After experimentation and chatting to Hierotech players, like we've all kind of agreed, the Technomancer is great now, right? Solid. If the Technomancer was just the only crypt deck you could take, this kill team would probably be A, B tier. Like, it's quite good into elites. But the Chronomancer, even though the range of the nanomine and its effects have been reduced, the fact it still gives someone plus 3-inch movement, 5-up DPR, and you still have the nanomine to slow stuff down, or now you take the 3-up invuln, they still rely on the Chronomancer. And because reanimation works on a 2-up, the kill team becomes less risky. So you can be very aggressive with your plays, knowing, oh, I can just run up into your face turning point 1 or 2 because they're going to be back turning point 2 or 3, and then I can just keep doing it again. So a crazy team to play against. I kind of think they should have changed reanimation to either tie to the Technomancer with a 2-up or 3-up, and then if you fail it, next turn it's a 2-up. I think kind of jumping straight to 2-up is too good, but we'll see. They're a very flexible and technically high skill ceiling team, but when you play them at the right level with the Chronomancer, they will just shut down everyone. They are a great counter into elite teams and also melee teams, just because of the Chronomancer being able to stop charges. Although most melee teams have 3 dashes to kind of play around it, you just have to be better with your spacing, but they're still great at controlling the board. They have more bad matchups now, like Corsairs and Pathfinders are really bad matchups for Hierotech because they can just dash out of the grenade. So you can't pin them down as much, but generally they're in a very good spot. if you're running the Chronomancer. Psychomancer probably puts them in like C, B tier. Technomancer, B, A, but definitely Chronomancer's the way. We kind of hoped it would change a bit, but the Chronomancer's abilities are so beneficial to your slow movement and making you even more durable, it's hard not to take. And it's just, when you've got that durability up with the 5-up DPR, your 12/13 wound operatives, who also res on a 2-up now, become incredibly annoying to deal with. But great if you're trying to make roadblocks and, you know, control the battlefield. Then in S tier, for the final in S tier, arguably the best kill team in the game at the moment. You know, they were top of the charts with the stats for March, February, January, and I think December, which is why they got a big nerf not to Frenzy. So until Games Workshop changes how Frenzy works, personally, I think it should just be fight on death, or it doesn't trigger from melee attacks. That would help so much. Like, they need to completely rework Frenzy, because at the moment, having to kill a Felgor Ravager twice, or trying to make them fight and die during their own activation, is incredibly hard to do. Like, smart Felgor Ravager players just abuse the fact that you have to kill them twice. If they're in a position where they know they can't kill you in their activation, they will just chip you with mortal wounds and then either attack with someone that is either frenzied already, or someone who can just, like, they don't mind losing. They have so many tricks. Like, the Gong technically got nerfed, so his ability doesn't work well frenzied. But as I said, if your Gong is frenzied, something's gone wrong, because your Gong should be behind a wall of gauze, right? It doesn't really make sense. Warpaint is a hit, but as I said, notable players like Jimmy Kelly, he doesn't use Warpaint and he's been doing really well with Felgor. So I think they're still going to be crazy. It's disappointing, right? But I guess we have to endure them for another 3 months. While they are technically worse on Beta Decima, the same applies to around 2/3 of the roster for kill teams. So I wouldn't really go like Beta Decima is the way. So it's just a wild situation. Like, I could understand what if this kill team was borderline overperforming, but it's just weird, right? It's a very oppressive melee team. They have recon. They don't even have to rely on killing, but they can still do seek and destroy as well as helping to block seek and destroy because of frenzy, like blocking rub and ransack. They have enough ways to chip you down with mortal wounds. They have their stun grenade that also either minuses APL from you or minuses APL and stuns you, and they have super conceal. Like, they're such a good kill team, and none of their tricks have been actually affected. Like, their faction tac op 3 is almost an auto score. Just a really good kill team, right? And yeah, I would probably put them the best. Like, they mess up Pathfinders, because unless Pathfinders can somehow get a shot on them, turning point 1, they will just mess up Pathfinders. Like, they're great into commandos now because of the crit change. So they can literally just force crits because they actually have lots of ways to reliably get crits, as well as have lots of lethal 5-up for crits. And into higher attack, because the nanomine doesn't work on dashes, if your opponent poorly places the nanomine in such a way that they can dash out, in the strategy phase, you just dash out of the nanomine and then charge them again. Really, really hard to deal with. I think it's just strange, because we're probably going to endure another 3 months of Felgor dominance. I said, unless you're playing on Beta Decima, but I wouldn't really advise forcing Beta Decima to try and balance the game. But this is the tier list, as we can see from above. And I'll have an article version of this in the episode description below, where you can just have this instead of having my lovely face watching you as you watch my tier list. And if you're my patrons, I'll have bespoke only tier list for my patrons. Because I like including the compendiums, right? Because they're still played. But overall, yeah, this is the tier list. It's generally quite good, right? If you exclude the S tier, I think we're in a great spot. Once again, A, B, and C are really close in terms of tiers, and the S and A tier is slightly closer now, but it depends. For example, Commandos are just in the S tier. They have more bad matchups, but then Pathfinders are furthering away from the A tier. Like, they even won a Spanish tournament, 82 players. You know, Pathfinders, that's great. Higher Attack are in a great spot as well, and Felgor obviously doing really well as well. So if you excluded the S tier, we're in a great spot. If you include the S tier, it's slightly better than the last 3 months of Kill Team we had. Still in a better spot. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if half can go up and warp coven go down, and I could see mandrakes going up or down as well. I think Nemesis Claw on a really solid spot. People are going to have to adapt to play around those. It's a very good elite kill team. And then there's also the question of Beta Decima. As you've already listened to me saying, I'm not a fan of using Beta Decima to balance the game. I'm not a fan of using any terrain set to balance the game, especially as when I cover it more in depth, Beta Decima is only playable competitively for 1/3 of our bespoke teams, because we have about 30 bespoke teams and only really 10 of them can play on Beta Decima well, which is a huge problem. Right, I'm going to get on Beta Decima to another video. If I include it in the tier list is going to be like an hour-long video. We're in a really interesting spot. If you compared it to last quarter's meta, we've now got Warp Coven. They were already doing quite well, but they're now a much more consistent threat. We have Wormblade, who are solidifying themselves as an A/maybe S tier kill team. Right, we've got the new Nemesis Claw and Mandrakes. Pathfinders are going like, well, you know, it's been over a year, guys. We're back to being the best, maybe. Hieratech going like, just enjoying life right now. Felgor just like, you know, tipping the balance team some money, and Commandos just are fundamentally unchanged. But you've got Veteran Guardsmen who've gone down a bit in power. Legionary have gone up a bit, in my opinion, just because of the balance changes. Like, it's a really interesting meta. I think the only people who are going to not enjoy this meta too much are Void Dancer troop players, and because they have to spend 1 white to drop and climb from Beta Decima objectives, and also Farstalker Kinband, which, you know, they did kind of explain in the Balanced Dataslate video that Farstalker Kinband aren't supposed to be a kill team, but they need to kill something, right? It's a good meta, right? It's just going to be interesting to see how the next 3 months go, because we might also get the Brood Brother and Jaeger kill teams, because Warhammer community during the Balanced Dataslate said they're coming soon, so we could see them in a month or 2, or maybe 3 months. We'll never know. So we should be in a fun spot, but we'll see how the meta develops. I'm quite interested. I am frustrated that the S tiers kind of remain static. I mean, it's been joined. Instead of Chaos Cult has tagged out and let Pathfinders and Hieratech up there, which is, you know, maybe I'll go back to Pathfinders. You know, everyone loved me when I played Pathfinders. Everyone loves my Pathfinders. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this tier list. Do you agree or disagree? Anything you think I've left out or missed, or would you reshuffle? And remember, I have an article version of this down in the episode description below. And please remember to check out my Discord in the episode description below, which is free to join. And then I have an affiliate link, Element Games, if you want to give me some more support, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my Adepts of the Crit, I have Tom, Super Cow, Sam, Ogo Pogo, Nick, Kenzie, John Thomas, Graham, Freeman, David, Dave Meets World, Dad of Goldens, Ben, Andy, and then for my Veterans of the Crit, I have Samja. So thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, back with my annual tier list. Flew through it until I got to the S tier, which is what I expected. A bit behind, like as I said, I've been going through some stuff. So the video that was due on Friday is either going up Wednesday or Thursday, whenever I decide to post it. And I should have more videos soon. I've got a Patreon video where I need to do a guide on Imperial Navy breaches, and I'll have another Critcast, and I'll probably do something Critcast live. I think this is the week. Yes, this week I'll also be in a tournament in the mid-south of the UK. I think near Bristol on Saturday, so if you're there, say hi. So yeah, until next time, you stay away from tier 15. And remember, no matter what the tier list says, you always have a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.